everybody. Welcome back to our show. This is Stacey Michelon with You Served, You Deserve. With today's episode, I'm actually speaking with a great veteran. You're going to find out. His name is Seth Bare. And Seth was Special Forces, served 20 years in the United States Army. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Seth.
Hi,
Seth?
Stacey.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for having me on.
Seth, what a long career.
Yeah.
You went in, how old were you when you went in?
So I enlisted at 17, originally Army National Guard, and then transferred to active duty after finishing AIT.
Okay. Were you planning on making this a career when you went in originally?
I wasn't sure. So I actually had some scholarships to college, but I wanted to get some time of service. It was September 18th, 2002 when I enlisted.
Okay.
So pretty much everyone was enlisting in the service at that point,
Sure.
following September 11th. So once I got in, I realized I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed being around the guys and getting to travel, and yeah, it was good times. And then you kind of reach a point where you're like, well, I've been here for 10 years, so I might as well stay for another 10.
I got to ask you, with all your travels, I mean, you've been all over and you've done a lot. What's one location that sticks out, or one area that sticks out that for you was that moment of might have changed your life or the way you looked at things?
I think it was more so after I graduated the Q course and got to the ODA on the Special Forces. You know, my first trip was to Cambodia and then Thailand as well, kind of back to back. It was different than the regular Army, right? So it was only 12 guys, and really staying in a country for 45 days at a time, you get away from the tourism and you become part of it.
Sure.
So it was all of Southeast Asia. It was like each one was just unique and kind of had its own charm to it.
Sure. So. While you were in the military, I know you and I have talked, and you did a lot of parachuting, a lot of jumping.
Yeah.
How many jumps roughly?
So I think
Because I know there's different levels. You got the halos, you got the
Yeah, so I went to Static Line Airborne School when I was still in the regular Army, early in my career. Became a jump master later on. So Static Line, I've probably got 300 or more jumps, and then free fall halo. Once I became Special Forces, I've probably got a little over 100 jumps.
How long were you in Special Forces?
I was in Special Forces for so it's about 16 years, 18 including the training.
Now, I want to kind of fast forward a little bit because you do have a lot. And we could talk about your career in so many different segments, actually. But the show is about veterans and veterans benefits.
Right.
And I want you to discuss a little bit about the last year you were in the service. What did you do? How were you educated, and who educated you on doing? And I'd like you to tell our viewers here, because there's some veterans who are still in the service who are watching the podcast. There's some veterans, you might be sitting there right now, but watching this, you're still in the service. Seth, of course, serving 20 years. We'll go into a little detail right now about what you should start looking forward to doing before you get out. So what did you do? First of all, who did you meet that started educating you on that?
So, the older guys in the group really kind of were late to the ball game, but trying to tell the younger guys, right?
Sure.
There's been a huge cultural shift in the military as a whole recently, where benefits and going to see care providers is now becoming more of a normal thing. Versus during the war, when I was in early in my career, probably up to year 15, you never went and saw the doc. You were never injured. You were never hurt. So no one really thought about VA or the benefits, right? We knew it was there. We knew we had to do it. But at the same time, it was your career in jeopardy necessarily if you went. Versus now, they're telling guys, hey, you need to get taken care of. You need to get seen. You need to get this documented. So probably around year 15, cultural shift. SOCOM introduced the THOR program, or the Human Optimization Program. And that started a lot of treatment and care, right? So probably about 2 years out from retiring, I really started paying attention to my med records and getting things documented. I had some injuries that were pretty bad, and realized, hey, this needs to get documented if I'm ever going to get a disability rating for it. And then I met Rob during a deployment down here to the Philippines, and seeing what VAC did, right? You guys were just kind of getting started really with the whole company as a whole.
Exactly.
But started sending guys over to Rob that I'd known, served with, and you guys really were able to take care of them. And through that, I learned the system a lot more on what needed to be done. I was really, really fortunate my last year. So my last year, the sergeant major at the time, Ron Flick, but he gave me almost that entire year to get my stuff straight, which used to be the norm kind of in special forces, and he really kind of honored that older tradition of that. So I spent almost the last year in physical therapy, psychiatric care, with the battalion psychologist. And I actually was fortunate enough to go to programs that the VA has stood up called the Polytrauma Center.
Okay.
And that is a program for SOF specifically where they take you, you spend inpatient for a month, and it's just specialists, psychiatrists, neurosurgeons, the whole gamut. And anything you need, they kind of send you to get treated, right? So that backed up with local care at the battalion medic, the psychologist at the battalion through the Thor program, and the VA itself really built my case. And because of that, I was able to come out at 100% disability.
There you go. You know, I want to backtrack just a little bit because some of our veterans that are still in the military right now or who had just gotten out, you went in at 17.
Yep.
You spent 20 years in, you get out when you're 37, 38 years old. And how was it to adjust after being, because when you think about it, you went from one structure, high school, schooling, you're having your friends there. You went to another major structure for the next 20 years, and then you get out.
Yeah.
How was that? Because you've been out now, what, 3 years? Almost 3
3
years.
years, yeah.
Okay. How has it been adjusting?
So it's definitely a change. It's
Okay.
a huge cultural change. From myself, my entire time in service, we were at war as a country, right? The entire
Mhm.
duration of it. I was fortunate because of where I got assigned. I worked primarily in Asia, so I went to Afghanistan, but I didn't go nearly as much as a lot of the guys out there. There's guys that went back to back to back to back. And it is the structure. It's the close knit community within your own unit, right? You have their family.
Right.
You deploy with these guys. You live with these guys. Sometimes more than you live with your own family.
How many guys were with you?
So ODA is 12 guys. So normally we would deploy with 12 guys plus maybe one or two specialists, commo guys or cyber
Sure.
guys, things like that. I was fortunate that because of what I did in special forces, I had a little bit more proximity to the lifestyle, if you
Mhm.
will, versus some guys. So it was an adjustment for sure. Don't get me wrong. Civilians, I think it's the inefficiency in civilian lifestyle that kind of will drive you crazy sometimes. It's we can get to it tomorrow. It's nothing's like nothing's on a deadline
Right.
almost, right? And even if it is, sometimes like, we'll move the deadline. Versus the military where you're like, no, which really, I think one of the most common things working with vets and having a lot of veteran friends is anxiety, right? Coming
Yeah.
out of service. It's that you have to be there at 7 a.m. You have to be there. This has to be done tonight, and you'll stay till midnight till it's done. So
Sure.
it's this constant pressure of deadlines and timelines. So anxiety just becomes part of your normal life, right?
Well, when you think about it too, I mean, you went from, like you said, you had that structure, you had those guys that were around you. I mean, I'm sure a lot of our vets right now listening and watching this feel the same way. They have that closeness with their vets.
Yeah.
But now you get out, you're retired, and you start meeting new people and different things. And how many of you feel that who have served maybe 20 years yourself, and now that you've gotten out, you think, okay, these guys had my back. Now I meet new people, new friends, and you think, oh, they got my back because you know what type of friend you are.
Right.
All of a sudden, you realize, yeah, they got my back. They're stabbing me in the back. I'm sure that's happened.
It's I don't know. The civilian mindset, I think, is a little bit different. And it's not saying that every veteran is a great person, right? Because they're still people.
Sure,
But
sure,
I think as the most part, you kind of get ingrained with responsibility,
right.
duty to others, right, is a big thing. And so you try your best to be there for your friends, for people that you know. Versus civilians, it can be friends in passing. And I think one big thing, one of my really good friends, Randy Borgman, who you
Mhm.
know, he still jokingly calls me an acquaintance. And I've literally stayed at his house. I've known him for years and years. But I think veterans are a lot slower to consider someone a friend.
Yeah.
Versus civilians, where it's like, oh, we're friends,
Sure.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
you said it best. You spent most of your military career, or all your military career, in war.
Right.
In war, you knew the guys that were with you. They had your back. And you had their back.
Right.
And it was life or death situation, in those cases.
Yeah, and even when it's not, I think the stress of what could be, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of veterans out there have lost friends. I've lost a lot of friends, and you never know when it's going to happen. He's there one day, and then something just happens.
Right.
So you have to have each other's backs, right? And it's a bonding experience. And I think every veteran from World War II on, and even
Mhm.
before that, would tell you there's no way to create the closeness of people that you went to war with, because it's a unique experience that only you guys shared.
Seth, I want you to look at the camera, and if you have to give anything to our veterans, especially some of those that are still serving, and let's say they have a year left, what advice would you give them to do? First of all, if they're still in the military with a year left.
I think my advice to you guys out there would be, one, get documented, right? Even if it's an injury you sustained before, it's not too late to get it documented while you're in service. And it's going to make your case with the VA so much easier, right? We don't have to create a nexus. And that's what the VA looks for, is a nexus. What caused the injury that you're saying you have? So definitely get it documented, even if it's a single visit. If you need care, physical therapy, psychiatric care, get it, right? Have it written down, have it recorded. And the other thing is, put the ego aside. You've done your service. You did your time. You did it honorably. You're getting ready to retire. You're getting ready to get out for whatever reason. Civilian life appeals to you on the outside. When I went and saw the psychologist as part of retirement, I thought I was fine, right? Like everyone else does. And I had a single meeting with her as part of the retirement process. And at the end of it, she looked at me and she's like, "You are jacked up." And I was like, "I don't think you can say that to me." She's like, "But I am." So, and that really started a prolonged care period for me.
Sure.
So.
I deal with a lot of different vets, as you do too. I mean, we get phone calls all the time. And some vets, the first thing they say is, "I don't have anxiety or PTSD
Right.
or depression." How many of you sitting at home right now, or wherever you're at, sit there and go, "You know what? Well, I don't have PTSD. I don't have anxiety. Or I don't have depression." Seth has said something to me, which I really like using all the time. You're not a psychiatrist. Don't self-diagnose yourself. You want to know what you have? Talk to your fellow veterans that you served with. I mean, I know you and I have talked about that. You've talked to a lot of the guys that you served with, and they'll be brutally honest with you. I listened to you talk to some of the guys you served with and said, "What do you mean you don't have PTSD? We just went through this together."
Right.
We tend to forget, or we tend to push down the way we feel on these things.
And I would say one thing is, a lot of guys don't want to cry wolf, because there's a lot of people there that may or may not have made false claims of PTSD when it kind of caught on. Right?
Sure.
But at the same time, like we just said, you're not a psychiatrist. How do you know?
Right.
If you feel like you have anxiety, depression, trauma, or you had a traumatic experience, and you think about it, right? Or it affects your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Let the psychiatrist make the decision for you, right? As part of the VA process, you're going to see a psychiatrist for your C&P exam. Let them make that diagnosis.
Seth, before we, I want to switch subjects a little bit.
Sure.
I want to switch from the mental health now to the body. Okay? I mean, you're 40 years old. And, I'm sure some of the viewers, you're probably looking at Seth right now saying, "Well, Seth, you don't look like you're in bad shape." All the jumps that you went through, wearing the uniform. I mean, how much did you weigh when you first went in?
I weighed about 185 pounds.
And how much equipment were you wearing?
During SUT, anyone that's been through the Q course or Ranger School, carry that 240 Bravo, and that ruck can get upwards of 100 pounds plus the weapon system plus armor. So you're moving your body weight almost, a lot of times.
Sure.
So it takes a toll.
When we're young, when you think about when you're young, we feel invincible, But now that you gotten out, and even before you got out, your body started saying things to you. You started looking at what was going on with your neck, your shoulders, your feet, all these things. The veterans right now that are sitting here going, "You know what? They still have the mentality. I don't want to complain."
Right.
And like you said, put your ego aside. But what would you say to the veterans that now who are out of the military that might not have put a claim in yet, or that is wondering I got denied. I'm just going to leave it. What
Right.
would you say to them?
So, I'm going to call back to one of the guys that I worked with that I talked to, right?
Mhm.
And he said, "Well, I feel the same as any other 63-year-old." How do you know? How do you know what every 63-year-old feels like, right? It takes a toll, and you can't say, "Hey, I carried all this equipment. I went to combat. I jumped out of planes. Whatever it is that you did, and it didn't take a toll." It's not, civilians don't live the lifestyle that the military lives, right? Physically demanding in that sense. Well, not all civilians, some sure, but it does take a toll. It takes a toll on your bone structure. It takes a toll on your cartilage, especially. So I had no idea that I had a crushed C-spine until I got out at 19 years when I was doing all my medical stuff, and they did a CT scan, and my spinal cord's completely impinged in 3 spots. I had no idea. I just thought my hands went numb for no reason. So, what to
There you
do?
go. There you go. The other thing is this, and I want to talk to the vets right now, our viewers and listeners. You sit there, you got to talk to your family members, your friends, but especially your family members, your wife, your girlfriend, whoever's, or your husband or your boyfriend, brother, sister, mother, father. They're the ones who see you day in and day out. They're the ones who help you. Sometimes you need help getting out of bed or help. You can't walk for long distances or stand, cooking or stand in line. So they do the shopping, they do the cooking, they do these things for you. You have to keep those things in mind. It goes back to when you were in the military. Seth, I want to thank you so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pleasure. I always enjoy working with you, but I'm so glad that you're able to cut some time and come on to the podcast. So I want to thank
It's
you.
always a good time.
Yep. And to all the veterans out there, as I always say, you served, you deserve. If you enjoy these episodes, please hit subscribe, hit like, share with your friends, with your family members, with other veterans. Maybe they might hear something, get something out of this episode. If you really enjoy this episode, if you enjoy talking with or listening to Seth talk, leave your comments. Send us an email. If you'd like to come on the show, if you have some questions about a show, or if you even have some questions about a guest that we have on, send us an email. Again, hit subscribe, hit like. I want to thank you all again. As you know, this is Stacey Michelon with You Served, You Deserve.